Hi everybody, I'm Brandon Witt, and we're trying things a little different today here on Prism. I got three of my gorgeous review friends to read and review Under a Sky of Ash, and then we all hopped on Google Hangouts and talked and laughed and gossiped and talked about the book for about an hour. I've managed to cut it down quite a bit for you, but there's still lots of details about the book in there, about reviews, both author review points and review points, all kinds of information. Sometimes our mouths moves at different times than the voices, and you get to hear about our fancy little t-shirts, and there's a lot of hilarity to be had. So thanks for joining us. Jump on in if you're brave.
This is Prism Book Alliance, and it's me, Andrea, aka Lurtle, and we have Christine, and we have PizzyGirl, also known as Katie. Hi! And we are all talking today with Brandon Witt about his new book, Under a Sky of Ash. Please, I hope that's right, because I'm so bad with titles. And we're going to talk about that book today and whatever else, and hopefully y'all will be able to stomach our stupidity and insanity as we do that. So, welcome to Prism Book Alliance and our blog talk thing, I guess, today with the three of us with Brandon. Hi.
I'm Christine. Hello. Also, Christine J. Reviews on Facebook.
And I'm PizzyGirl, Katie, but mostly PizzyGirl.
And I'm Brandon Witt. Thanks for joining us. And we're talking about this book, There's a Glare, Under a Sky of Ash. Andrea. So this book, we were talking about this earlier. There's some stuff that we don't want to give away, as in spoilers, so I've still been struggling on how to explain this book to people without giving it all away. But kind of the blurb is that we have Isaiah and Ben, and both of them have had pretty traumatic childhoods. And Isaiah, it's based in Denver, and Isaiah moved away for a while to kind of heal or escape, and he's moved back. And during that time of moving back, he meets Ben at a special ed meeting because Isaiah is a teacher, and they have a student in common named Aaron. So they kind of meet, and sparks begin to fly, and the story goes from there.
Just when you were talking, though, it was kind of dumb of me to forget, but the whole Big Brother thing was awesome, because my dad has always been a Big Brother. He's always had little guys that he's sponsored ever since I was little. So that was a really cool inclusion to have in the story, the Big Brother thing, because that's always been a part of our family life. So I just say I would appreciate that, because you really don't see that in a lot of books these days. So that was really cool.
I don't think there's been anyone outside of the system that's has been a Big Brother outside of ones for my own students. That's pretty cool.
Oh, really? Yeah, my dad's, gosh, I think I was maybe like 5, the first one he had, and the guy was a teenager. And we're actually still friends now, all of us, with his family he's got now and whatever. And then he had a couple more as we were growing up. And then after he retired, he went back to doing it and had a couple more little brothers after that too. So, yeah.
And I related to the educator aspect. Thank you for that perspective, because it was very well done. And that was a question that I had for you, Brandon, was as an educator and as a writer, how did you manage to rein in everything you wanted to share as a teacher? Because teachers are notorious for having stories, and we all want to share, and we all want to let people know that teaching is not an easy thing, but it's also very rewarding. So how did you manage to rein in all the information that you really wanted to share but couldn't?
That is all due to my editor, Desi, because this was the second book I had written after quitting 15 years of teaching, and I think in a lot of ways it was kind of therapeutic info dump. And while I still loved the kids and my principals and everything like that was amazing, by the end of it, with all the laws and the district crap that was coming down,
everything was getting in the way, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of that came through Isaiah's character, and my editor was kind of like, he seems kind of mad. Okay, so let's fix that, because the author is kind of mad, not the character.
I will just say he doesn't come across mad in the book, so hopefully that means you guys succeeded in editing that part, paring it down, because he doesn't come across as an angry person for the most part. So you succeeded.
Good, thank you. There's only, I think I think there's only one true story in that book, and there's a scene where Aaron, the student, goes up behind Isaiah, the teacher, and dumps rocks and mud in his hair and rubs, and when he was on a swing set. And the student was doing that to be funny and actually kind of friendly. And that happened with one of my favorite students. I almost said his name. The last year of teaching. So I included that just kind of as a true life thing.
Well, that rang rather true. That had to come from someplace real, because rubbing rocks in the head, way to introduce yourself, and yeah.
Well, that actually touches on one of the questions that I had, and I think you've already answered it, but how much of this story is based on your experiences and how much of this is just in your mind?
The actual storyline itself, obviously, is all made up, all in my mind, but as far as like the abuse or whatever that happens and some of the trauma, while it's not, I didn't take anyone's story of that specifically, it's all true. I mean, it's all at least similar enough to stuff I've seen, and actually I've seen a lot worse than this. I think in some ways that's made me jaded or made me a little more unaware sometimes of the amount of angst, because to me I'm like, well, I know 10 other students that have lives so much worse than this. You should see those. So I think if it rings true because I've worked with that population for so long. So I know
it definitely rang true. At least it did for me. Yeah, for sure.
Very authentic. Yeah.
Well, I have a question then, and really it's just going to be 2 letters, RJ. I mean, he's just, I can't even describe him. He's just, he's
just RJ.
Yes, he's just like somehow the heart of the story, and keeps the brother storyline going through the whole thing, and I'm a sucker for stories about brothers, so I absolutely loved RJ, and I think he's a really important character, and I like that he had such an out front role in the whole thing, that he wasn't in the background or wasn't used in any way just to forward another storyline, that he was a main part of it all. And so you need to talk about him, because I'm asking you to, so there you go.
All right, then I will. So for those of you that haven't read it, RJ, well, let me back up. The book opens with Isaiah, who's the special ed, or he's not special ed teacher. I'm the special ed teacher. He was just a teacher in the book, but it opens when he was around 12, and he's having his first kiss with another boy, RJ. And RJ's dad comes in and freaks out with, finding out his son is gay and all that. So later on, Isaiah is still visiting RJ because he suffered brain damage, and then my brain totally left. That was good.
Well, I guess one of my main question was, it felt like, and I'm sure this is probably true, we just wouldn't know it from the reader perspective, but it just seemed like there was a lot more going on inside RJ, that he just really wouldn't be able to communicate, or wouldn't really know that he could communicate, and so then it left, Isaiah and Ben and everybody else to kind of read that from inside him, but he seemed like there was still a lot going on inside, despite his, his mental age that he was left at as an adult.
I think that's probably true, and to be honest, I didn't always know what was going on inside of RJ's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the inspiration for him, besides of just the plot of the story, my mom's the youngest of 5 siblings, and one of her sisters had an accident around 5 or 7, and no one's really sure what the accident was, but because of brain damage, she kind of stuck at that age.
Right.
And has been in group homes and all of that. She's pushing 70 right now. But I remember as a kid, I didn't really like that side of the family very much, except for Esther. That was her name, and we would sit and color together. And that was kind of our way of connecting. And as I've seen her as an adult, I think I'm more aware that, because at the time it was kind of like she was just this grown-up kid.
Yeah.
But now as an adult, talking to her, I realize that there's definitely more there that she's not able to say or communicate
Yeah.
So that's kind of where RJ came from, is from my aunt.
Well, he's spectacular, and yeah. So thank you for giving him to us because he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite, one of my very favorites ever written.
Wow, cool. That's good. I didn't know people would connect to him like that.
Are you seeing a lot of responses to your book that maybe surprised you, or were you expecting the reaction that you're getting?
I wasn't sure what to expect with this book. I've seen most of the responses I've been getting have been positive. Like, the reviews have been pretty stellar. I've noticed that not a lot of people are buying this book. Like with my last one, The Imperfections of Swans, it seemed like it went pretty big when it first came out, and that's not happening with this one. My theory is that even from the blurb, it talks about a lot of angst. So I don't know if people are afraid of this book. If they're sick of hearing from Brandon Witt, that might be.
I'm so tired of you, Brandon. Whatever. Just stop it.
Well, I get tired of me, so I wouldn't blame anybody. But I think people are maybe a little afraid of this novel with the amount. Well, and all the positive reviews, they're bragging about it, but they talk about all the Kleenexes and all that stuff that they have to use. So, that's intimidating.
I would have to say, though, along those lines, yes, there is the angst, and yes, there is a lot of emotion, but there's a lot of great balance with humor. And,
yes.
And it's an inspiring story too. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of healing involved. Yeah. So I really think that potential readers need to know that it's not. Yes, there's angst. I mean, it's just the subject matter is difficult, but at the same time, there's also a great balance with a lot of wonderfully written characters that bring a lot of healing to the whole story. So
your cast of characters is just fantastic and so diverse in every way. Listen, people, there are black people in this book, because guess what? There are black people in the world, so it's pretty spectacular. Okay? And not just one, but more than one. So bravo, because hello. It's not white bread land out there. I'm just saying. So I appreciate that in this book. And, I mean, Mandana, really?
Hello.
Mandana in your book. I'm just saying. So you might need to talk about Mandana now just a little bit, because that, and actually it kind of leads into the big theme of, the family that you make. It's definitely the theme, I think, in this one, too, and how friendship can be a savior when you're going through something that you just don't think you're going to make it through, or you're not going to make it through it alone, and thankfully you have that family that you make. Mandana is definitely an example of that, I would say.
A force of nature.
Yeah.
She is. Mandana, I think, is my favorite character I've ever written. Maybe Madra from The Shattered Door, but they're tied. She was not supposed to be so central. Like, she was going to show up and be important, but I've never had a character that when I was writing, like, I'm laughing and going, I can't believe that she just said that. Like, none of it was planned. None of her was planned. She was just there and, like, came up on the page, and half the time I was like, I don't think I can publish that, because she just really just said that. But loved her. And I think that is
the humor. She was strong. She's a strong person.
Oh, very
person. Yeah.
Well, I think that's true with a lot of drag queens. Not that I've met thousands, but I've met several, and to have that confidence to do that,
yeah,
I think that just goes with it a lot of the time. You have to be tough and strong and not afraid to say whatever the hell you want to say.
Just be who you are and not be afraid of what anybody thinks. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think I'm glad you touched on the racial diversity too, because it's based in Denver, and I grew up in this little all-white town in Missouri of 3,000 people. And at first, living in a big city, that was one of the scary things, because I was raised that all those different people are dangerous. And it's become such an important part of living in a city. Part of what I, like when I go back to small towns, I actually get uncomfortable, because I'm just like, oh my God, there's so many people.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's a comfort thing, I think.
Well, I like that you said it in Denver, too, because obviously you know Denver. So that came through in the storytelling, too. I think the confidence that you kind of know the town, the people, and that was a part of it, at least for me, through the whole time I was reading. You could see you feel the confidence in the writing and the storytelling. Because it was a lot about what you know.
were those particular places specific to you that you enjoy visiting? How did you choose the different locations for your scenes?
Yeah, those were all really important scenes for me. When I was planning the book, it wasn't set in Denver, and I couldn't ever feel right about it for some reason. And then I don't know what clicked, but I'm like, oh, they need to be at home. Like it felt.
Then it dawned on you. Let me write it in Denver.
Exactly. Like there was so much angst in the story, in that storyline plot, that I think it needed Denver. It needed to be home, somewhere where I knew a lot of happy places. So, like one of the places is Casa Bonita. A lot of people have heard of that place. It's this huge, tacky restaurant. Love or hate. A lot of people hate the food. It's all you can eat, like really cheap Mexican food. But I love it. I think it's fun. And
so in other words, the next time we come to visit, we have to go there, right? That's what you're saying.
Oh, we totally should go there. That's.
Okay, ladies, let's plan our next trip.
Exactly.
Well, if you don't like the food, they do have the Speedo.
Diving.
Yeah, I was going to say the Speedo guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I always liked. It is weird when you're sitting there with your 6-year-old nephew going, well, he's cute. This is a strange. But, and then Cheeseman Park, which is where Herschel and Mandana get married, or Herschel and Daniel. That's where Alistair, my dog, and I go walking almost every day. I had a mouse named Ralphon for a while, and my boyfriend and I were walking late at night, and this little white mouse starts hopping across Cheeseman Park in the moonlight, and we're like, oh my God, something's going to eat him. And he came up to us, and we ended up taking him home, and he lived out his last days with us for a year or so. So things like that. Yeah, there's lots of things.
That was quite the deal on Facebook. I remember Randolph's introduction.
Yeah, people were like, you're going to get rabies and die, and a sweet little cuddler. So
well, we're glad you didn't get the rabies and die, so just saying, you know.
I've never been written, you know.
Give me time. Give me time.
We didn't introduce our shirts, by the way. We were having brunch in Denver, all 4 of us.
Yes.
Oh, right. That is right.
We were discussing our different traits, and I think Brandon mentioned that he was a huge dork or something like that, and we started calling him a dork. And the conversation got interesting, and I think I mentioned it, or somebody said something like, well, we're just too delicate for that subject matter.
Yes, that's right.
We're such delicate flowers.
We dubbed ourselves the dork and the delicates. And from there, our wonderful dear friend Catherine Dare.
Yes.
Yes. She made us pony. And now we have the shirts to prove it. So these are our Sir Dork and Delicates. Us. We've been ponied.
Here we go.
Dork and the Delicates. There we go.
Oh, lest you all think that because we're all such good friends, as I'm like touching myself, that's all.
Yes, that's great. Thanks.
Really good friends.
Yeah.
That maybe read are just so nice, and that's why I like this book. But you can go read PizzyGirl's review of Men of Myth and find out.
Oh my God!
Eviscerate me.
It's been how long since I reviewed those?
Here we go.
I'm never gonna
No,
review
it's a
them
good
again.
one. I think she said what about 75% of the population was thinking. So that's a good thing.
I think my biggest complaint is that you're wordy, which he is not in this book. So pick it up.
No, he is not at all. No.
Everything is. It's just very, very well written. Just just one of those really. It's not easy subject matter, but it's a.
No, but it was still an easy read, quote unquote. Like there was no slowdowns or anything that seemed unnecessary or anything like that. It was all well done. All the dialogue, everything was.
Great.
I mean, Ben is just.
It's really
There's no filter on Ben at all, which was fantastic. And Isaiah is he tries to come across not as if he is, but I think it's a rather complex person, Isaiah, and he's still got a lot of stuff to work through too. Maybe not as obvious as Ben, but anyway. But the whole thing was a very easy read, despite the very tough subject matter. But it read very well.
Well, and Katie, I tease you about the Men of Myth review, but I'm actually thankful for it. I like it when people are honest about how they feel about my books, and I think that review about the wordiness, I mean, you come to mind quite a bit, and I've noticed the past couple books that I've written are shorter, and I think that's part of why, is because I'm more cognizant. There you go. I'm more aware of, do I really need to say all these words, or can we just cut it down a little bit? And you're one of the reasons that does that, or that I do that. I think you make my writing stronger. So that wasn't a slight at all. I'm glad that you said what you said.
I know as reviewers, it's actually very hard for us sometimes to, what do you want to say? You don't just want to downplay things, but at the same time, you hope that your words make an impact. And most of the time, there's that whole, do you read reviews? Do you not read reviews? Some authors don't, some authors do. And when you actually meet an author that does take your words to heart, it just kind of renews the reason that we do this, and that we're not out to get people, and we really do want to help.
I totally agree, because I just read somebody else's book recently, maybe like the third one of theirs. So like third in the last three contemporaries from you, Brandon. You can see the progress and the growth in your writing and in your storytelling and your characters and how much more complex they are, and how less is more, and then you don't give everything away. You make the reader work for the story, and for me, I love that. Not everybody likes that, but I do. And you can totally see the growth from in the last couple of years, especially these last three contemporaries that you've had. You can see it, and I love that. And I've already written that in my notes, my review. So there you go. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thanks. Well, see, Katie, you can take credit for a lot of that. So
there you go.
Thank you.
It's all for Katie.
So we talked about earlier the fact that you do include a racially diverse cast. One of the things that I noticed, and it's in my review actually, is that you made a very big statement, at least as far as I thought, on a lot of the political ridiculousness that's going on nowadays, with how the conservatives are just super conservative and the liberals are super liberal. But your book, in my opinion, kind of struck a balance that pointed out a lot of the absurdity that's going on, but never crossed that line into preachy. You never really made an outward political statement, yet it was there throughout the whole book that people are people no matter what. Did you do that on purpose?
I don't think so. I mean, yes, I have pages upon pages of notes about how I planned that out. No. I've hesitated whether to talk about the whole race thing or not, because especially as a white author, I just put it out there, it's terrifying because I'm going to get it wrong. You're worried about the reviews you're going to get. You're worried about what you might get called. But kind of where I came to is I've had gay guys comment on my book reviews about, obviously this guy doesn't know gay men, and he just stuck a woman in on the gay guys, or stuck a gay guy in for the woman's part. And I'm like, really? I don't know what gay guys are. So I kind of went, you're going to be kind of screwed no matter what you do. So just do it and treat. That's how I try to treat my gay people too. Is that they're just people.
Yes.
So with African American characters, they're just people. We're all just people. We're all good. We're all bad. We're all whatever. So.
That totally comes through, and I think it goes back to you just made them real. They're not caricatures. They're not extreme. Go back to what Katie just said about the political stuff. Most of us are sitting around talking about politics. We're usually not being absurd or extreme or anything else. We're just, talking about however we feel, and most people are in the middle somewhere, and you definitely did that with all the characters, no matter what they were, gay, straight, black, white, whatever. They just came across as people, and I think that's a really important thing because I think that doesn't happen enough in our fiction today. And this is definitely a work of fiction. I know people want to say, well, don't say it's not a romance. Well, okay, I guess it's technically a romance, but it's fiction about family and friendship and all the stuff people go through and everything else. So it's a fine work of fiction, in my opinion.
Yes, definitely. Because even though the romance was there, that was not even the biggest thing in this book at all. And in my opinion, it almost could have not even been there, and this book would have been just as impactful.
Totally agree. Yep, totally agree. I just see that last scene. The last scene makes up for anything. No. Anything else went through the last scene. That's it. That's it. I'm good. I'm good.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
Just perfect.
Yes. So go pick up the book and read it, because you have to read the whole thing to understand the ending, and the ending is totally worth it.
It's so hopeful and it's so beautiful and wonderful and just, yeah.
Well, you guys are good for the ego. Thank you.
Well, you asked us to be truthful and honest, so we are. So just deal with it.
Yep.
I like it. I will say it's up until this book, I didn't really understand how an author could say they have a favorite book, but this is my favorite book I think I've written. And
wow.
It was the easiest book that I've written. Most of the time, every time I'm writing, it's a joy because I'm doing what I love, but it's hard. And this book was not hard. It just vomited out all over the page, and it was so that was fun. It was really, really fun to write.
Did it take you less time to read this one or write this one compared to your others? Like how, if you can kind of even put a time stamp on it, but how was it as far as, the time you spent writing this one compared to the others?
Yeah, it did take less time. I mean, planning took just as long, especially with some of the things that happened in the arc of the story. The planning took quite a bit, but the writing of it was really fast, which is part of the reason it came out a month and a half, I think, after my last one, because it really just showed up. So I wish that would happen more often. But that's the only time.
Just put Mandana in every book somewhere, at least in one scene.
I know. She's a bossy little thing. She'll just take over.
Yeah. So even just in one scene, a cameo, and that'll get the juices flowing, and there you go. There's your book. So.
Well, here's a good idea. You should go back and write Daniel and Herschel's book, because there's a story there for getting them together.
Yeah.
You're the second person that said that, actually.
Well, there you go. It's a consensus. You should do it.
That would be fun. It would be fun to see Mandana's transition from, because I can't imagine her always being so strong at the beginning.
I'm sure there's a huge story there.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, until you get to that story, what are you working on next?
Oh, that question. I have The Son of Money coming out. It's in like its third round of edits, but I don't think I have a certain date yet. It's May or June. And that is another story I'm really actually excited about. It's kind of my take on, it seems like there's a whole bunch of slut-shaming going on even with gay guys amongst gay guys and all over the place. And with the invention of PrEP, which is the drug that's supposed to block HIV, that slut-shaming has gone like crazy too. So this book doesn't deal too much with HIV or PrEP, but the character is the son of really, really wealthy family in Seattle and gets, I keep wanting to say excommunicated, that's not the word, cut off financially from his family and turned to erotic massage photography business to make ends meet.
Well, now.
But not just for money, but also because he wanted to. Which I think is an important distinction. So that's kind of a play on that, and there's definitely a romance in there, and it's also a lot of family drama, but more in a fun kind of dynasty kind of way. It's light and
angry. So we're going back to the 80s and dynasty, huh?
Kinda. I had just read J.R. Ward's Bourbon Kings. I don't know if you guys have read J.R. Ward's.
I haven't read it. No. Yeah.
I got it on Audible. It's waiting.
It's fun. And so I was kind of inspired by that. It's almost like fanfic of hers in a way, just because, like, oh, let's do some fun, over-the-top family drama. Whereas this has a lot of over-the-top family drama too, but it's more real. I think that one's a little more fun.
Okay.
So there might be shoulder pads involved, or lots of hairspray and stuff, or something. Yeah.
No, but there are a few maids. I'm like, real people don't have maids, but
No.
So that's coming up soon, and then I've got a couple of Men of Myth short stories coming out, and I'm working on I forgot what my series is called, Rocky Mountain Boys. That will happen pretty soon. That's pure romance, so that's been a challenge for me, as you can imagine. So.
You mean you had to make yourself write those sappy, romantic, sexy scenes? What?
I'm trying to. I actually wrote it, and now I'm going through and rewriting it all again. That's how hard it was. So
in tackling all this difficult subject matter, Brandon, how much research did you find yourself having to do? Because a lot of it you did say was connected to your own experience, and it, as you said, vomited out onto the pages. But did you have to do some difficult researching in order to bring the reality to the page?
this one is probably not the answer that you want, but I didn't have to research much at all on this book. Like with the wedding book right before this, The Imperfection of Swans, I did so much research just because I know nothing about weddings or wedding dress shops, or that book dealt with anorexia and bulimia, so there was a ton of research there. But with this book, it was everything I kind of knew. I have tons of special ed experience. I have lots of family drama experience with those students and families. And I have family that has a brain injury. So it was kind of just like in my wheelhouse, I guess.
That's good. I think it's important that readers know that it's coming from an authentic place, that it's coming from experience that, you know, isn't something that I just looked up on the internet. It's something that I experienced, and I think that's important for readers to know.
Yeah, and it comes through too, like we were saying before, for sure. It feels very authentic. So, oh, can we talk about the cover too? Because the cover is,
oh my gosh, yes,
oh yes,
beautiful cover. So please pontificate on the cover.
Let's show it again. Who's
your cover artist, Brandon?
So my cover artist is Anne Kane, and she's done all my books except for The Imperfection of Swans. And I think The Shattered Door was my first book, and when I opened that cover, I started crying. We were out to lunch. But that, I mean, it was beautiful, but it was also like, oh my God, it's my first cover. And this one, this is my 7th book, I think. I opened it and instantly started crying again just because it's gorgeous.
Look at that thing. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
You should buy the book just for the cover.
What'd you say? Oh, buy the book for the cover? Hell yeah, buy 10 books for the cover. It's 100. Buy it for your whole house.
Yeah. For the whole wall.
But what's interesting is you can fill out what you want for your cover, and when I told her, I said I do not want people on the cover. The only thing I mentioned besides the storyline is that crabapple trees, blossoms, play a big part in the book. I don't know if anyone else will notice, but I mentioned them a couple times, and that pink is a big color in the book. And I got it in, and she'd gone ahead and put people on there, and it was like, wow, you knew so much more than I did on what this cover was. She nailed it.
Yeah, she did. It's awesome.
So happy.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for spending time with us, with me and Katie and Christine and Brandon. We appreciate it, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, and I'm going to plug the book again because even though I'm a big scaredy cat when it comes to angst and emotion, it was totally worth it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was. And I think the review is up on what date?
31st or whatever, I think.
I think it was, yeah. So watch for it. If this hasn't sold you on it, then, you know.
Thanks for joining in, everybody. Please check out Under a Sky of Ash and shoot me or the ladies any questions, comments, hate mail, cake, anything you want to say.
Cake?
Cake, I think. Yeah.
I didn't know that was an option.
Right?
Oh, cake is always
I'm on a diet.
Okay, well, send her peas. Send me her.
No, I want cake.
Nope. Lost out on the cake. Sorry. Anyway, thanks everybody. We love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.